Hi guys, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about this. So this is the Shinemate EB212, which is a 3-inch 12mm orbit DA random orbit polisher. I'm going to be talking about this and be doing a review on this, but I also am going to spend a lot of time comparing it to the Mirka, which is right here, because many of us believe that the Mirka is the best 3-inch polisher that currently exists. And I've been using the Mirka for a year, 2 years? I don't know. I've had it for a long time, honestly. I had it before it was available from OG. I originally bought mine from Beaver Industrial Supply, and it's a really, really good machine. I love it. I use it a lot. Because it is so quiet and so smooth, it's really good for filming. So I often find myself using it when I'm testing out polishes and pads and stuff like that. I have a whole drawer full of 3-inch pads because I like using it so much. I probably use it more often than your average like professional detailer would, because I'll do an entire car with the darn thing. I just really enjoy using it. So let's talk about this. This is the Shinemate. Like I said, the part number is EB212. This is available currently from Carzilla. It's also available on Waxit, which is in Australia, and there's another place in the UK that has it available also. Parks Car Care will have it in the United States, but they currently don't. I bought mine from Carzilla. It cost me $334 shipped. It came with the unit, 1 battery pack, a charger, which is over in my cabinet, 2 pads, and the power cord for the charger. So only 1 battery on this. If you want a second battery, batteries are about 60 bucks. It's the same battery that the EB210 uses, and it will be the same battery that the EB213 uses. So the 212, this guy, is a 3-inch random orbit DA with a 12mm throw. They have an EB213, which is a rotary that is not out yet. I'm waiting for it to come out, and I will buy it once it does in order to test it. And then they make an EB210, which is a convertible unit that has adjustable heads and different sizes. This is the unit. It's very similar to the one that we used at SEMA. So I played with this back in November at SEMA 2024. Very, very similar to the pre-release version that they had there at their booth. Trigger slightly different, but overall pretty similar. So it's nice to see that it came out, it finally exists. It took a little bit longer than we all expected it to, but it's here and now it's available-ish. And I say available-ish because Carzilla had them for a day and now they're all sold out. People have been asking about this more than almost any other product. I think that there's a lot of interest in it. This is $334 with 1 battery, 400 bucks with 2 approximately. The Mirka, which is the one that everything is going to end up being judged against, this is $788 with 2 battery packs and a charger. Those are the 2.5 amp hour battery packs, the smaller one like I have in here. They do make a kit with 5 amp hour batteries as well. I think the 2.5 is the one to have. These are the ones I use most often. I own 2 2.5s and 1 5 amp hour battery. 2.5 is more than enough power, more than enough runtime, and it stays out of the way of the panel. I like the small form factor that you end up with. If you bought it from OG and you had Inside the Hex, you'd probably be about $710. Sometimes they go on sale at Clean Garage. You can get into the 6s, $650, something like that. You'll get like a 20% off or something like that, catch the right sale. But it's twice as much money as that. This is definitely, just in my limited use of both of these this week, like this has only been here for this week, this is definitely a better machine. Like I'm very confident in saying that. I don't know that it's $400 better. I don't know that it's double better, right? So that's what we're going to explore here together. That's what we're going to talk about. And I can't make the decision for you. You're going to have to decide what to buy for yourself, whether it's one of these or something different. But I can at least be transparent and show you all of this. I will put a link down below for the Mirka. If you go to OG and you buy it with the link, I will get a kickback. I do have an affiliation with them, so there'll be a 5% on that. If you use IG5 on Carzilla, I'll get a 5% back on that as well. So there's no reason for me to like one of these over the other. Either way, you can use my code, not use my code. I'm going to get a 5% kickback if you do use my code from either one of them. Looking at the actual units themselves, the Shinemate is about 1/4 of an inch taller than the Mirka. The battery comes out of the back slightly more, so it just sits a little bit lower. There's a little bit more plastic there, so it ends up being about 1/4 inch taller overall. The physical height of the head is so close that it makes no difference. The head of the Mirka is smaller, but the distance between the pad and the head itself is greater. So the overall, from the distance from the pad backing plate all the way to the back of the unit where my thumb is the same. Size-wise, they're the same. Weight-wise, they're within an ounce of each other, so they're the same on that as well. Now, as far as operation is concerned, let's talk about the Mirka a little bit. So you're probably familiar with this. Press the trigger, it powers on. It's got adjustable speeds. This is the lowest speed setting. Press and hold the trigger. You can hear it. Nice light hum. Very quiet, very smooth. Has adjustable speeds. This is the highest. This trigger is a variable speed trigger, so if you squeeze it a little bit, you'll hear that it can be adjusted. So you can see that I can adjust it by squeezing harder or softer with my finger. This does not have a trigger lock, and that has been one of the biggest complaints about the Mirka, is that it doesn't have a trigger lock. I'll be honest with you, I use it a lot. The lack of trigger lock doesn't really bother me, but I know that it does bother some people, so it's just worthy to mention here. You can set it to a fixed speed, so I generally use it at the same speed all the time. So you can, in the app, set it at a fixed speed. That makes it so the trigger is no longer variable, and then you can just press and hold it and it runs. So there is an option around that, and then it becomes a lot easier to keep it running that same speed, I guess, is the way to describe that. Now, the Shinemate, here's what the back looks like. You can see there's a power button here. Press that, it powers on. That's the lowest speed right there, which is 2 dots. So this light over here is like on, and then the next one is the speed. So we've got 2 dots. We press the plus, it goes, there's like an in-between. Press it twice, it goes to the middle dot. Press it again, it's in between. Press it again, it goes to the highest, and that's it. So when we go here and we press the trigger, you hear it turn on. Sounds pretty similar. The one thing that's different is there's like it's kind of like a wave of speed. Like what I'm noticing is when you pull the trigger on the Mirka, it just goes to that RPM and stays there. And this kind of has like a little bit of a waver to it. It seems like it's going a little bit above the speed, then it's backing down a little bit, and it's kind of getting to that number. Like it's almost metering itself and trying to adjust its speed. So you'll hear that here if I pull the trigger again. So you hear it like goes up, down, and then it kind of stays flat, right? So there's a little bit of wave there as it's trying to measure the speed. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, it's just different. Full speed. On full speed, it doesn't really do that. Now, one thing that you'll notice a little bit different, when I let go of this, it stops. It immediately stops the DA, and this will just rotate until it spins down. When I let go of this, it spins down very slowly. So it's almost like, normally when you have a brushless motor, when you let go of the trigger on a brushless motor, they tend to go into a mode where they're taking the rotation and they're inducting current back into the battery. So that's like regenerative braking in a car, for example. So normally when you let go of the trigger on a brushless motor, they don't really spin down slowly, they kind of just brake. This has some sort of clutch or some sort of spin down circuitry in it that it's actually going down slower rather than just stopping. So this is more like a cordless drill. Like you let go of it and it stops. Like there's a brake almost. Where this slowly spins down. A little bit different. This does have a trigger lock. In order to activate the trigger lock, you press it twice. I don't know why it keeps doing that. There we go. So as you can see, not pressing the trigger, and it is still spinning. Tap it again, it shuts off. Haven't quite gotten the hang of getting it to happen every time. Okay, so from off, nope. a little bit of jank there, right? A little bit of inconsistency. Now, one thing that I do notice with this, when I press the trigger, the responsiveness is very quick. It spins up almost instantly. This has a little bit of a delay. It's not a lot, but it's a little, right? There is something there. So it's just, again, I'm talking about differences, minor differences, and these are two probably really good units, honestly. I have a lot of history with this. This is a brand new product, so I don't know how it's going to hold up long term, but Shinemate historically has been a good brand. So if you are looking for a trigger lock, this is the one that has it. And, you know, obviously, you can totally use it. Now, what else is different about it? This has no vents, as you can see, and it doesn't need them. I have polished entire cars with this and gone battery to battery to battery to battery, entire cars with this unit, and never had a heat issue, never had an overheating issue, never had it shut down for thermal, never had it reduce power. It just runs. This has vents on the top. So I don't know if that's necessary, but Shinemate put them there. Something a little bit different. The rubber on this is also texturized, while the rubber on this is not. Now, I had the opportunity to speak with Mirka's engineer, the one that actually created this thing, at SEMA last year. And I spent a little bit of time talking to him about it because the Shinemate was there and he had played with it too. And we were just kind of going back and forth and, you know, discussing what was different and, you know, the things that he saw from an engineering perspective. So I think the most important thing to understand is the intent of this Mirka, what it was actually created for, and what the design intention was from them, right? So the Mirka was built for automotive factories. So, you know, a manufacturer like Mercedes-Benz will be producing vehicles inside their factory. And occasionally those cars will have paint defects, right? They'll have a, you know, a fisheye or a nib or some run or something along those lines, right? So Mirka created a line of products that are for automotive manufacturing plants to correct very specific defects. So what's the magic with this thing is that it's fully programmable. So I can actually, there's an app, I can connect this to my phone and I can say in my phone, I want, when I press the trigger, for this to run for 37 seconds at 4,000 RPMs and then stop. So what you can do is you can actually set this up so that a factory line worker can see a particular paint defect on a panel, and they know that I put a 3000 grit sandpaper on the 1-inch machine, and I press and hold the trigger, and it's going to run and it's going to shut off, and when it shuts off, I then follow up with the next thing, which might be polishing it with the 3-inch with a particular polish, right? So it is a structured, repeatable usage case. A worker has this as their tool, and they are using it to do a particular job. They are not detailers. They are not using it to detail. They are not trying to do paint corrections. They are not using lighting to take scratches out of a car because somebody took it through too many car washes. They are instead at an automotive manufacturing facility trying to repair a very specific defect that might come from the factory before it gets to the customer that's going to purchase the car. So they design these to be programmable. And then in Europe, there are very specific requirements, like we have OSHA in the United States, the Occupational Health and Safety Organization or Administration. They have similar organizations in Europe. And the way that we measure things like hearing loss and we measure radiation exposure and those types of things that you might have happen at work, they measure vibration and harshness and noise that you're being exposed to as a factory worker. So the app for the Mirka can actually record how much time you're spending using it and the amount of vibration and harshness that you're exposing your body to during the day. And it can collect that data so it's reportable for the company to see that, right? And to make sure that you're working safely. Also, The app gives you information about the battery. It gives you cycle count, it gives you the current percentage left, it gives you the runtime of the machine, how many hours are on it so that you can keep track of your inventory. It is very much an industrial grade product that is designed for a factory to produce a vehicle. Some of us detailers found out about it. Honor the source. Matt at Obsessed Garage found out about it from somebody else and bought one from Beaver Industrial Supply, which is where I originally got mine from as well, and did a couple videos on it. And then Obsessed Garage has it, and a lot of us have now purchased it either from Matt's videos, from Obsessed Garage, from Clean Garage, or some of the other places that started carrying it right after Matt made it popular. Or maybe even from the original, which was Beaver Industrial Supply. They had it in the US before anybody else did, but they had it as a woodworking tool. So we are using a industrial product designed for manufacturing facilities as a detailing product. And it contains many things that we don't necessarily care about. I don't care about the app. It's cool, but I don't need it. If the unit was $200 cheaper, didn't have Bluetooth connectivity, and didn't have the app in it to record the noise, vibration, harshness, and the battery cycle count, I would be perfectly fine with that. Because I don't need that as an occasional detailer. But a factory does, right? So the intent of this product, again, is create a repeatable experience where a worker can be trained. If you see this defect, you put blah on the pad, you stick it there, and you hold the trigger until the machine shuts off, and then when you're done, you wipe it off with this towel and you follow up with this next step. And they can do that literally all day, and we can look at the machine and we can see how many hours they spent using it. We can make sure that they are safe and that and that the unit is maintained and that the battery is not losing its health and all of that stuff as an inventory asset. So what Shinemate really did was they created a clone in a lot of ways. It's a very similar design. Like, we just have to say that. These two things look incredibly similar. And this was the first polisher that we really saw as detailers in this form factor. I'm not saying that maybe others didn't exist, but this was the one that really made it popular in the United States. This is the one that everybody was talking about. And this is the one that Shinemate looked at when they were designing it. It's obvious. They had to have. So I'm not saying they copied it. I'm not claiming intellectual property theft. Like, I don't know about any of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that that's what happened. But it's very clear that they took design cues from this product. They did something a little bit different. They have a power button on the back. That doesn't have a power button. You press the trigger, it powers on. You let go of the trigger for a certain length of time, the unit automatically powers itself off. This has a power button to turn it on. It has a power button to turn it off. They both have the same number of speeds. They both seem to have the same RPM range. Starts at 4,000, goes to 7. This one I think is the same, 4,000 to 7. They both have a 10.8 volt battery at 2.5 amp hours. They both have the same weight. They both have the same overall size, very similar overall size, within a 1/4 inch of each other. And they're very similar design. So it feels to me like Shinemate created a Mirka made in China, less expensive to produce, with a trigger lock, because a lot of people were complaining about the Mirka not having a trigger lock, without the Bluetooth app, without the connectivity, without the reporting, without any of that information, and they made a more accessible Mirka designed for the amateur or professional detailer to use. And I would argue if you're a professional detailer, you should be investing in the highest quality products that you can anyway, and I would still buy the Mirka, honestly. Like, we're talking about, if you do a paint correction with a ceramic coating, you should be getting $1,500 to $2,500 for that as a service, and your materials cost is, what, $300, depending on what coating you're using. So realistically, one coating could pay for that. Let's just be honest with ourselves. That is a professional product. I guarantee you it will outlast this. I know that it will. It seems to be more consistent, like this trigger thing where I'm like pressing the trigger and sometimes it comes on and sometimes it like wavers and sometimes it just goes on and shuts off. Just weird little things like that I'm kind of seeing. I never had any of that with the Mirka. The Mirka's just been 100% solid since day one. Now, the trigger lock is nice. Something like that. I'm holding the trigger right now. and it's not spinning. It's on. It's blinking green on the back for some reason, which is interesting. But the battery's fully charged. I literally just took this off the charger. I will say that it's a little inconsistent to get the trigger lock to work, and that waver in speed always makes me wonder, did I lock it or not this time? Because it kind of goes up and then down, and it's like, oh, is it going down because I let my finger off the trigger, or because it's just wavering a little bit in the speed? But it's nitpicky. These are nitpicky things. I think this thing is pretty cool. I think that the plastic definitely feels a little bit thinner than the Mirka does. It seems to have a little bit more flex to it, especially without the battery in it. The Mirka is a little bit more solid. One of the things that the Mirka engineer told me is the reason why they don't have vents. Well, first off, he said, I don't need them. And then secondly, the reason why this is all flat or smooth, he said that adding the texture to the unit raises the likelihood of somebody developing blisters from using the tool longer periods of time. So that was the reason why they chose to make theirs smooth. Now I don't know that it will or won't. That's a factual thing that I was told by the engineer. So you can take that for what you want. They both use a 3-inch backing plate. The Mirka has a flat backing plate that actually threads into the unit. I have a spare Mirka backing plate sitting here. I have a spare Mirka backing plate sitting here that I can show you. That's what it looks like. It's got a thread on the back. Nice and simple. The Shinemate is more like a 5-inch. There's a screw in the center that goes into it. They're both a 12mm DA. They both seem to have plenty of power. They both don't seem to stall. So we'll spend some time with this. We'll polish a car with it. I'll let you know my thoughts. I do have the rotary. I am going to order the rotary as soon as I can. Waiting for that to come out. Should be late May. So hopefully a week or two, that'll be available and we'll be able to buy that and get that here as well. I think that this represents a great value. And I think for the person who uses a 3-inch very occasionally for things where they need it, because they're a professional detailer, maybe there's somebody that's just starting out or doesn't have a lot of expendable income, I think that this could actually be a really, really solid choice as a 3-inch. I think it's better than an HLR 75, and I think it's better than a Flex PXE 80 or any of the other 3 inches that you might buy. I don't know that it's going to be as good as this, but at the end of this, I'm either going to sell this and the rotary and keep the Mirka, or I'm going to sell the Mirka and I'm going to keep this with the rotary, and we'll see what ends up happening there. I'm guessing that I will end up keeping the Mirka. I'm not 100% certain, but I already own it. Sunk cost. I already spent the money, but that is obviously worth more used than this is. I give Shinemate props for producing something that's different, for trying to improve on something that a lot of people really liked and solving a problem that some people had, which was the lack of a trigger lock. It is different enough. The buttons, the placement, the vents, the design overall is, I think, different enough. My hope would be that there wasn't IP theft, that they didn't just buy one of those, disassemble it, and then design their own, that they actually, went about this the right way. But it is a pretty cool unit. It's nice to see something new available on the market. A lot of people have complained for a long time that the Mirka is too expensive. I don't think that the Mirka is too expensive. I think that it costs what it costs. I think that we don't need a lot of the feature set that it has as detailers. And maybe not all of us appreciate the value that it brings because we don't need those features, right? So just one of those things. But that's all for this video. We'll do in the next video, we'll spend some time polishing with both of them. We'll do the same, same section of hood, same pad, same compound. We'll see how they work. We'll spend a little bit of time using it. And try to get a car here that I can correct the whole car with this, because I did a whole car with the Mirka. I've done 2 or 3 whole cars with the Mirka at this point, and I really enjoy that. And I want to see how this holds up after some extended use. Like I mentioned, I do plan to buy the 3-inch rotary. That's more to see if a 3-inch rotary is actually a useful tool that I use. I've spent a lot of time using the 5-inch rotary lately, and I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, I'm inclined to think that I might really like the 3-inch rotary. And if I like the 3-inch Shinemate rotary a lot, then what I would probably do is try to buy a Mirka 3-inch rotary. if I end up keeping the Mirka, I guess. I want both tools to match, so I'm either going to have both Shinemate tools or both Mirka tools, one or the other. That is all that I have for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you're having a great day.